What happens to a company when it finds itself in deep financial waters? To find out, let's take a close look at one such company, a company with a household name, the name Brentford Nylons, a company which over the past few years became almost part of everyone's sitting room with its regular advertisements on television.
Last year, Brentford Nylons made an estimated loss of £2 million, and on the 21st of February 1976, these headlines appeared. Brentford Nylons had gone into receivership. But just what does that mean? With Tony now is Kenneth Cork, joint receiver and manager of Brentford Nylons.
Kenneth Cork, what does a receiver actually do?
Well, he has to realise the assets of a company to the best advantage, and he's usually a manager, so he manages the company to try and keep the business going and preserve the assets so it continues.
So what's the essential difference between being in receivership and being in liquidation?
Well, when the company goes into liquidation, the company is going to finish for certain. When a company goes into receivership, it may not necessarily be finished. And the receiver is not worried about the investigations and things that go into a liquidation. He's merely worried about trying to keep the jobs going and preserve the asset and let the business itself go on.
So the essential function of a receiver is to keep the company going?
He's a receiver and manager.
Right. Now, you have acted as receiver for all kinds of things. What sort of qualities does a man need to be a receiver on one day for a company making textiles and another day for a company making tin trays?
Well, management, it doesn't matter about the technical knowledge, it's management that counts. And you have to have the quality of making up your mind very quickly as to whether the business is one that can continue and should continue and can be sold as a going concern. So you've got to make quick decisions and stand by them. If you make the wrong decision, you're cooked with it.
You're in trouble.
Yes.
Why was a receiver brought in to Brentford Nylons in the first place?
Because it ran out of money. It had a liquidity problem. It couldn't buy the raw materials anymore without additional facilities, which it couldn't get, and it couldn't pay the wages. So you had to have a receiver in to continue it.
And is the company continuing to trade?
The company has continued to trade, and when we went in, it was on a 3-day week. It's now a 5-day week.
The name Brentford Nylons was coined when the company moved to Brentford High Street in London. And that's when Mrs. Cathy Gilchrist and Mrs. Madge Gould joined the company. Madge, tell me, what was the atmosphere like in those days?
It was a very, very happy atmosphere. It was just like well, we were a large family.
How hard was the work?
Very hard. Everyone was expected to do a good day's work, and they were well paid for it.
What is a good day's work?
Well, not 9 till 5, for one thing.
What then?
You came in at 9 most days, and if there was work to be done, you stayed till it was finished. I've known us to work till 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the morning, and this is fact. And quite a few, well, there's not many of us left now from the old days. To work 7 days a week was nothing, you know.
What did you think of Mr. Kay, Madge?
Oh, he was a marvellous man. He really was. He was, well, I couldn't hardly say a father figure, but he was a great person, really.
I think we did think of him as a father figure, although he still is a young man. But he was the guiding light, I think, to everyone, really, in those days.
How would you describe his burning ambition?
Well, I think, really, to sell goods to the housewife at a very, very competitive price. I remember when I first joined the company, the sheets were sold at $3.50 a pair, and eventually those same sheets came down to $19.11 a pair.
Through the 60s, Brentford Nylons continued to expand as Kay Metrobian moved towards his dream that every British housewife should sleep between Brentford nylon sheets.
Well, with me now is Mr. Rhys David, textiles correspondent for the Financial Times. Did that dream come true?
Well, it came true up to a point, because at one stage Brentford Nylons were selling something like 1 in 3 of all the sheets bought in this country. And they were selling them because they basically had a very good marketing idea. Not only were they selling their sheets cheaper than anybody else, but they were selling colourful sheets. And as we all remember, I'm sure, a few years ago, bedroom sheets were almost entirely white and pillowcases were white. But Brentford Nylons started the idea of patterned and dyed sheets, and other companies had to move in. Unfortunately for Brentford, they grew too big too fast. They expanded into a big new factory in Newcastle, and they found their production was coming on stream just when the market was disappearing with the recession.
In the 60s, they were famous as a mail-order firm selling nylon sheets. Now, how long did that last? When did they start to change?
Well, they started moving over at the beginning of the 1970s into a retail operation and into polyester cotton sheets. Because of their success in selling nylon sheets, various other companies decided that they wanted to get into this market and to sell brightly patterned bedroom material. So Brentford Nylons decided they would have to move with the rest of the market and go into polyester cotton, which was at this time becoming much more popular than the nylon sheet.
Did they change their marketing policy to go with the retail shops?
Well, the change to the retail shops was really the change in the marketing philosophy. Brentford Nylons decided that with postal charges going up, it would be more sensible to concentrate increasingly on using retail outlets, and so they opened a chain of something like 60 of these around the country and progressively closed down their mail-order business.
And their advertising, did they increase that?
Yes, they built up at one stage to an advertising budget in excess of £3 million a year, at which point they were probably the biggest advertisers in the country, and a lot of this was concentrated on television.
So apart from going into polycottons, how did they change the things they were selling?
Well, in fact, they didn't really change the things that they were selling.
Added to them.
They did add to their product range. They came to the conclusion a few years ago that probably they didn't have a broad enough product range, so they started to go into things like clothing. Because one of the problems with running a retail operation like they were running is that they only had sheets and pillowcases and bedroom material to sell. And it meant that unless people actually wanted to buy sheets, they wouldn't go into a Brentford Nylon shop. So they decided that they'd better have a range of clothes alongside their sheets so that they would get impulse buyers through their shops.
Did that go well?
Well, it went reasonably well until the start of the present recession. And then people had much less money to spend. In the clothing area, Brentford Nylons ran into competition from imports, and in the end they had too much production and too few customers.
And they have a very, very modern factory, don't they?
Yes, they do indeed. And this again has been one of their big problems. As I was mentioning before, they grew just a little bit too big, too fast. You see, originally their concept was to buy warp-knitted nylon ready from the manufacturers and sew it up. Well, Mr. Metrobian decided that he wanted to become what is known as vertically integrated. He wanted to have control of the whole operation through from spinning the cotton polyester, weaving it into fabric, making it up, packing it, sending it out to the shops, and even selling it in the shops.
How was the company run, the company itself?
Well, Brentford Nylons is a private company, as you know, and one gets the impression that Mr. Metrobian was the dominant figure within the shop, within the organisation. And there are stories of the sort of influence which he was able to exert, even on minor details. One story which I rather like.
Haven't got time to have your story now, because I do want to ask you before we end this section. By the early 70s, was the company actually making a lot of money?
Yes, the company built up to a very good level of profitability, but over the past 2 or 3 years, profits have gradually slipped away. It's moved into loss, and of course this has culminated in the calling in of the receiver.
Rhys David will be coming back to you a little later on. Tony first.
Well, there we are, a history of the developments at Brentford Nylons, as told to us very succinctly by Rhys David of the Financial Times. But as we know, by February this year, Brentford Nylons no longer had enough money to finance its day-to-day operations, and the receiver was called in to manage the company's affairs. We've already heard from Mr. Cork what this entails for him, but now let's go back to Brentford Nylons, to Cathy Gilchrist and Madge Gould, to find out what receivership means to them as Brentford Nylons employees.
Well, first reaction, I think, like most of us, felt very sad and very shocked. And a feeling of panic, I think, came over most people.
Why do you think all this happened?
Well, my own personal opinion, I've always had great respect and admiration for the family, for Mr. K. Metrobian, and I feel that once the expansion took place, it was too big for one man. He had to delegate, bring in executives, and although these were very clever people in their own field, and I wouldn't like to take away any respect one would have for them, but I don't think they had his genius and his ability to cope with problems. He just seemed to have a natural flair to manipulate and to control.
And these silent machines stand as witnesses to the change in fortune at Brentford Nylons. But really, why did it happen? Jones back in the studio with Rhys David of the Financial Times.
Mr. David, what do you think the reasons for failure were?
Well, it's a whole complex set of circumstances which has resulted in this final failure of Brentford Nylons. In the first place, the company ran into a lot more competition. Other companies started challenging the segment of the market that Brentford's were in. At the same time, Brentford's had absolutely no export outlets. They were doing no export business, which meant that when the home market went sour on them, there was no other outlet. Finally, the management was not there when Mr. Metrobian was unfortunately taken ill last year, and the result was that there was nobody really to take over the management of this very big factory which they're building and to nurture it into production.
Were cheap imports a problem for Brentford?
Well, up to a point, probably not as much as in other sectors of the textile industry. In some sectors, something like 60% of the market has been taken by imports, but in household textiles, it's nothing like that.
But is this country a dumping ground for cheap imports, textiles in particular?
Well, it is in certain areas, and of course one of the areas where it did actually affect Brentford was in the clothing area, where they did try to diversify. One of the things about this country is that it traditionally does play very much by the book. It observes international agreements, and people do find that this is perhaps the easiest market to try and get into when they have a bit of surplus production. It's a lot easier, say, than getting into France or Italy.
Back to Brentford, because by the 70s they were making a lot of money. Could you, as an expert, have seen any cracks in the structure at that stage?
Well, I think over the last 2 years, probably, one could begin to detect a few cracks. One was beginning to sense that perhaps the company was losing its sense of direction. They started up in clothing, then they shut down the clothing, then they started it up again on a limited scale. They went onto short-time working in Newcastle. So there were one or two rather suspicious signs beginning to emerge.
Are other textile companies, I mean, we know the textile industry's been in trouble for some time, but other ones that produce domestic textiles like Brentford going to be in trouble?
Well, I think probably it's a little bit difficult to say for one sector like household textiles. I think taking the textile industry as a whole, it's certainly true that as we begin to climb out of recession, as we are now, that companies are going to have difficulty buying stocks to match the upturn.
In 2 words, is Brentford Nylons going to continue?
I think there is quite a good chance, yes.
Rhys David, thank you very much. Tony.
Well and good, but to find out what's going to happen to Brentford Nylons and to the large number of people who work there, let's go back again to Kenneth Cork, Brentford Nylons receiver. Mr. Cork, the workers at Brentford Nylons have put in a bid to take over the company themselves. What's going to happen to that?
Well, there's no reason why their bid shouldn't be acceptable if provided they are given the finance to back it.
And are they going to be, do you think?
It's a matter for the Department of Trade whether they'll supply them with it. We have other people who are interested too, and it just depends whether they can get adequate resources.
So may I ask you to hazard a guess as to what you think the ultimate fate of Brentford Nylons is going to be?
It will undoubtedly continue as a going concern, and the shops will remain with the company and the workers will remain in employment, and that will be about 2,000, 2,500 jobs saved.
Right. Because of the present economic climate, which is gloomy to say the least, is the failure of Brentford Nylons typical of what's going to happen to lots of other companies, do you think?
I think it may not happen to lots of other companies because things are improving, but the problem is the high rate of inflation. It's difficult to get it through to the price in the shops because of restrictions, quite right, proper restrictions, but As you buy each lot of raw material, it costs more, and a lot of the raw material is imported. The wages and the higher wages have to come through, and you lose your percentage of gross profit. And this is one of the great problems of inflation. There's not a steady costing going on because one thing keeps going up.
Do I detect somewhere in what you've just said a sort of heartfelt appeal for us all to buy British?
That's absolutely right. A factory like Brentford Nylons is one of the finest textile factories in the world. And if we keep it going, we keep a national asset going, and we stop sucking in foreign imports, which takes away our foreign exchange. And if people want these British businesses to go on, they want to go down to Brentford Nylon shops and buy everything they can to keep it going.
Mr. Cork, thank you very much indeed. Well, we are now going into liquidation for a few days because that's the end of this show. We'll be back at the same time next week, by which time we hope to have been to the Design Centre, and we'll be showing you all that's new for use in the garden. So let's hope the weather stays fine. Bye-bye.